Hello and welcome. In this unit, we'll discuss related services. Our goals in this unit are 1. To understand the law applicable to related services, and 2. To have you become familiar with the range of services available, including options that may not come to mind when you think of related services. But first, let's define what we mean by related services. Related services, which are called Designated Instruction and Services, DIS, under California law, are services that are made available to students in special education if they're necessary for the student to benefit from his or her educational program. Related services are technically part of the student's placement. Take a minute and think about what may be considered related services. What came to mind for you? Likely, you thought of things like the following: speech therapy, occupational therapy, adaptive PE, maybe counseling? These are all correct. But did you also think about things like music therapy, parent counseling, transportation, mental health services? As we'll see in this unit, the range of related services available is quite large. So let's begin with a discussion of the law. The law states that related services are services that must be made available for students if these services are necessary for the student to benefit from his or her educational program. IDEA requires a statement of the related services and supplementary aids and services that are 1. Going to be provided to the student, or 2. Provided on behalf of the student. These services should enable the student to do the following: advance appropriately toward attaining their annual goals, be involved in and make progress in the general education curriculum, and participate in extracurricular and other non-academic activities, and be educated and participate with other students with disabilities and without disabilities. So what does this mean? Taken together, we basically see that schools should provide related services to students if services are necessary for students to benefit from their time in school. Essentially, related services allow students to access their education. Look at how the law mentions access to participate in school and extracurricular activities. Please note, the law doesn't define a level or cap of related services that are available. Likewise, nowhere does the law say that parents should be given related services that are inexpensive for the district or readily available to the school. Nor do we see that students are only entitled to limited services per IEP period or anything like that. So what services are available under the law? Well, too many to list, but they include speech-language pathology and audiology services, interpreting services, psychological services, physical and occupational therapy, recreation, including therapeutic recreation, transportation, orientation and mobility services, medical services for diagnostic or evaluation purposes, school health services and school nursing services, parent counseling and training, music therapy, which is newly recognized as of 2014, mental health services, social skills training, behavior intervention services or consultation, and many others. If you want the list of related services that is shown in the law, just search for the law site that you can see on your screen. But remember, the law specifically says that the services available are not limited to what is listed. The law also lists one of the few actual things to be excluded under the law: surgically implanted devices. Okay, let's discuss a few more general rules. First, related services are free. As we discussed earlier, related services are services which are necessary for a child's education. Regardless of actual cost, they are treated as something basic and necessary and should be provided for free. Second, related services should also be tailored for the student. This means that there is no prescription of related services. For example, if your child's eligible under emotional disturbance, that doesn't mean they will automatically receive counseling as a related service, nor does it mean that counseling is the only service they will receive. Of course, counseling may be necessary, but the point I'm trying to make is that being given counseling shouldn't be automatic. there should be a reason why the student is receiving the related service. For example, an assessment that shows there is a need unique to the student's educational needs. Third, the fact that related services are unique to the student is also important with regards to what parents ask for. We know that parents always want the best for their children, but it's important that the parents ask for only services that their children need. It doesn't help anyone to ask for something that a neighbor's child receives if your child doesn't need it. Fourth, related services that are part of a student's IEP must be provided all school year. If the student is eligible for extended school year, ESY, the related services must be provided during ESY as well. Finally, California law has only one set of laws that govern related service providers. This was not always the case. Before 2014, some laws applied to providers in public schools and other laws applied to non-public schools. In 2014, the laws were updated so that non-public schools and public schools now have the same requirements regarding related service providers. If you're interested in learning more, just look up the citation that you can see on your screen. As I just mentioned, in 2014, the state of California made changes to the regulations that govern related services. This included changes to the accreditation requirements of related service providers. Some of the requirements were strengthened, while others were weakened. For example, the state used to require that physical and occupational therapists graduate from an accredited school. In the new regulations, this was taken out. However, the regulations now include language that physical and occupational therapists are required to have a valid license from a licensing agency from within the Department of Consumer Affairs, among other requirements. If your child is receiving related services, I would suggest looking up the site listed on your screen and seeing if your child's provider aligns to what the law states in terms of accreditation. As you look to ensure that your child is getting the right related services, I do want to mention one thing about changes in services. Changes in the amount of services listed in the IEP cannot be made without holding another IEP meeting. However, if there is no change in the overall amount of service, but some adjustments in the scheduling of services, that's allowed without having another IEP. For example, if your child's getting 30 minutes of speech a week every Monday, the school cannot decide to decrease it to 20 minutes without a new IEP meeting. However, if the speech therapist is unavailable one week on Monday and they do the 30-minute session on Tuesday, that should be okay. No IEP meeting necessary. With that, we'll end this unit. In later units, we'll cover in depth some of the topics we spoke about, such as other components of placement. In the meantime, here are a few resources for you. You can access our toolkit online and read Chapter 12 on related services for more information. If you're in the Los Angeles area, you can also call us for an intake if you're having trouble accessing related services. Well, thanks for joining us, and goodbye for now.